What's up, pretty gang? It's your favorite nail tech Peaches back with another video. Excuse these videos, they weren't taken at the best angles, but I'm hoping that they will be able to convey the end result nonetheless. So we're going to be talking about encapsulation, specifically on short nails. I have previous videos on encapsulating like in general or using clear acrylic. This is going to be on the design in general, encapsulating sequins, etc. So before we get started, don't forget to check out the description link. It has coupon codes, my Amazon storefront. Follow me on social media, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out. You guys, 90% of my views are from people who are not subscribed. So I'm just gonna let you take that in. Click subscribe if you feel like my channel has something to offer for you, okay? All right. So the thing about encapsulating on short nails, right? So this particular client, she knew that she wanted a glitter pink, clear pink background, which the color's actually custom made. And then she wanted a variety of like really cute, like kawaii type of style, very sparkly, glittery. I had actually suggested a handful of these type of sequins. I do have some sequins in my Amazon storefront if you guys are interested. These ones come from a specific nail supply, which I don't even think that they are open at this moment anymore. So I apologize for that. But so once I got out the type of sequins, I did tell her in advance, hey, I can definitely encapsulate on this length. Just know that it may look a little bit different than what you're thinking. There may be a little bit slight more thickness than what you might think, and she was okay with that. So we went ahead and moved forward. So part of this video is going to be in regular speed. The rest is going to kind of be in like a fast forwarded, just to let you guys know. I did not want this video to be extremely long. So we're starting with the background color, which, as I stated, is a custom mixed clear pink glitter. Now you might notice that it looks like I laid down a bead that would be good for, you know, oh, this could be a solid set. But the thing about it is, when you are laying down a color, even just for background, if you lay it down too wet and watery, you will not get the color payoff that you're looking for. So in that case, you'll need to have a bead that is large enough to cover the nail and, you know, rigid enough so you can move around, but not so thick that it's going to cause extreme thickness before you can even encapsulate. So as you can see, I kind of let the bead sit for a second, and I pretty much just patted it out until all of the extra is gone, because realistically I'm only using this as a background color, so we do not need any strength out of this particular bead. And you can see when I turn it to the side, it pretty much adds little to no thickness. So instead of moving on and doing this on all 10, the best thing to do is to go ahead while this bead is still wet and stick down your sequins. If you do not do this, you will have to risk going back around and laying down a little bit of a clear acrylic to get them to stick, or try and glue, which I've done that years and years ago. Glue is a horrible idea because it just causes a lot of unnecessary stuff getting stuck to different things, okay? Now you can see once I stick these sequins down, I'm just pushing them down a little bit to kind of like embed them, so that way they don't go nowhere, and so that way they don't poke out, they won't stick out very much at all. Okay, now the next step to this, before we move on, just like how I advise you guys to do with gold flakes, we're gonna lay down a tiny little bit of clear acrylic on top, and this is going to be watery because, as you can see, this is for nothing other than making sure these sequins don't move. So realistically, on a length at this short, right, and with sequins in this type of pattern, right, we really want to focus on keeping our layers thin and at the right consistency. So once again, I have a bead, right? I'm going to get whatever this little thing is out. I'm going to get that, probably like a little crusty piece, and I'm just going to pat and tap around so that way I can make sure this layer is fully tucked around all the cuticles, because if you don't do that and you just slap this on however, it's going to be a pain to try and encapsulate later on. It makes a difference. You have to treat this layer as if you need your application to be just as good, because this is our base layer and everything that we lay on top of this is going to follow suit. So if you don't get this into all the nooks and crannies in the cuticle area, anything you try and do later is going to fall in between those areas that did not get sealed properly at this moment, okay? So as you can see, you want to make sure this bottom layer is nice and neat. This is just for color, so we really don't need to add anything, and we're going to lay our sequins on. Now, when you're working on nails that are this short, you're going to have a hard time figuring out, like, how do I lay the sequins, what type of pattern? And I'm going to tell you right now, it's kind of like a puzzle because you want it to look like organic, but also not like you just laid 3 on this side, 3 on that side. So you're going to be seeing, like, as I place these down, I'm trying not to make it look like I have 2 rows of sequins. So you can see I'm kind of offsetting the stars a little bit. I'm having some bigger sequins in different areas and just making it look like I didn't just, you know, I don't know how to explain it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just need the positioning to be right. So rather than looking like, okay, well, whatever, I wanted to make it look more organic than organized the best way that I could. Because if the nails were longer, you'd have more space to work with and get that same look. So then, of course, once the sequins are down, we're going to lay the tiniest bit of clear acrylic. We're going to just let it run over. It's okay if everything doesn't get covered. And then we're going to go back so you can see a pattern. We're going to basically do 2 nails, go back and cap 1 nail, then do the next nail, go back and cap the other. The reason behind this is because if this stuff isn't dry or settled into place, you are going to basically move everything around as soon as that layer of clear hits. Okay, so now that stuff is dried down a little bit, I'm able to get to where I need to be. I know my sequins are not going to move out of place, and you can see, again, even though it looks like that layer might be too thick, you can see me patting and tapping and pulling everything, and that all the excess is coming down to the tip. So you really just need enough to ensure that nothing is basically going to be getting filed through, because if you set yourself up correctly, you're not going to have to do a lot of filing later regardless, which means you won't go through this acrylic layer, period. At this particular length, you really don't need too much acrylic to be considered as strength. You don't really need too much of an apex, but you do still need to have the proper structure. So please keep that in mind when you're going through your layers. As you can see from the side angle, they're really not too thick, and everything will be fine when I go ahead and do all my filing and shaping later on, which I will include some of that as well. So you can see it was pretty much a no-brainer because I laid that first layer of acrylic so nicely, and then I followed up with that layer of clear. Nothing moved out of the way, but also I was able to finish off my cap layer with ease. It went into everywhere it needed to go, and you can see now I'm just making sure it keeps shape the best way it can. So again, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know what I'm saying? Because I really want to be efficient with time, and also just with the overall steps. Nails is like, what do they call that in math? PEMDAS? Yes. Okay, that's how nails is. So like I said, we do those 2, we're gonna cap, and we're gonna move on to the next 2, take a step back to cap, and move on. So again, we are taking a bead that is nice and hardy, because the thing is, if you don't get your bead to the right consistency or the right texture, you will not be able to have a really nice cap layer. You're going to be going in with a lot of different things, trying to piece together, like, okay, how am I supposed to make sure everything is capped without too many things sticking through, etc., etc. So this is why I say go in with a nice sized bead that is like thicker. You don't want it to be liquid. I know the nails are short, but trust me, if it's too liquidy, you're just gonna have a problem later on with filing straight through everything. So as you can see, these nails are not super thick at all. I'm pretty much taking the bulk out of the nail by like pulling everything to the tip, and I am patting everything and keeping up the shape of the nail itself. We still will go ahead and file later on, of course, but we need this to still have a solid like base. Well, not a solid base, but like it still needs to have strength and solidity, I guess, if that's a word, because we don't want these enhancements to chip or break or anything like that. That's something to keep in mind with short nails. Is I understand, you know, they don't need too much strength, but the tips do need to have a little bit of something there. You know what I'm saying? So in comparison to the nails that have no acrylic to the nails that are like, you know, finished, you can see they're not an out of control thickness. Like I mentioned previously, it's like, it's appropriate considering that we are like double capping basically. So the next few clips are actually going to be fast forwarded, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about some extra tips and tricks for those of you to like those of you who don't need like extreme help with this part of like exact steps. So for those of you who kind of got a handle on it, some tips that you might want to consider is, that means I gotta leave for work soon. Some tips that you might want to consider is when you are encapsulating sequins or anything, money, anything, you want to make sure that you do not go too close to the edges, because if you go too close to the cuticle, you're going to have a hard time capping around that, and a lot of times it's going to stick out. And if you go too close to the edge, you kind of want to remember that, hey, I'm going to be shaping this and this nail is going to be shorter than what you think. So if you want a sequin that has the appearance of being all the way to the tip of the nail, put it a little bit like upwards of the tip, and later on when you file it down, it will be the perfect length. It'll be sitting right at the tip. That's number one of things that I've learned along the way. And number two, I know I mentioned it previously, but I just really want to reiterate, when you are encapsulating, if you have any type of base layer, or even if you have your sequins down and you're doing that second layer of, like, you know, loosely spilling some acrylic over top, you do just want to make sure there are no lumps and bumps, because I used to be that person that thought like, oh, I'm just going to encapsulate anyways, it kind of doesn't matter, even though I'm using acrylic to kind of glue down sequins. But it does matter. You want to make sure the sequins are really, really flat, and that's why I always lay a little bit of acrylic first, even if I'm not doing a colored base layer. But if I'm doing like you know, what am I trying to say, just plain, like, you know, I always lay a little bit of acrylic first, and you want to pat those sequins and stuff into it, because the thing about it is, if you just have the acrylic at the bottom and the sequins on top just willy-nilly, you're gonna be able to have problems laying down that big acrylic layer at the end, that cap layer. Okay, that's one of the main things that I can tell you guys. If that causes trouble with long nails, it definitely causes trouble with nails at this length. And then another thing is, you just really want to make sure you keep the shape of your nail. The best way to do that is to play around with the consistency of your beads. I promise you, having a little bit more of a like drier consistency, not like liquidy wet, but you know, a real cap layer like how you would do a long nail, it works just as well on short nails, and you will just pull away the excess and it will help you out a ton. So this is the last little bit that I'm going to show you. I really just wanted to show you this because as I am doing my finish filing, you can see that the nails are not terribly thick, as you can see on the thumb from the side profile. However, you can see they are solid, and although the e-file is going over it, nothing is really getting ruined or anything like that. It's okay if there's some sequins that don't quite fit and they do get filed off a bit, but really you want to maintain the integrity of the whole entire set, the whole entire nails. That's pretty much what I'm getting out here. I hope this video helps those of you who are having trouble with short nails and encapsulating. You're not the only one. I struggled for a long time with this one. All right, so once again, here is the final look. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what else you want to see, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video.